Good evening, this is Susanna Sprinkle, and here's my data and assessment for AEP 858 case study. Okay, so the summary of the case. So we know that the test scores, the reading test scores of Truman Elementary are low. And so I, as a principal, observed the classrooms and formed my own opinions, but I also needed to get a reading specialist into the classrooms as well. And so she observed the classrooms, and then we compared our findings, and we found that we came to a lot of the same conclusions about what was happening within the classrooms. The PTO and the community are also concerned about our reading program. They've seen the reading scores in the paper, and they're a little worried that they're so low. And so we'll need to address it at the next PTO meeting and make sure that we have data in place so we can explain what the data means and what it's telling us, and then also kind of our plan of action to use that data to improve. And then also it's great that I can share within that PTO meeting some good news about a grant opportunity that can help us financially support our reading program. So things that we need to know. So we need to know a little bit more information on which students need what specific help in reading. So we need to look at the data a little bit more and look at individual students and where we can focus our attention on. We also need to know if other tests have been taken by students, and then hopefully compare them to these tests. So for example, was this just a standardized test that students weren't ready for? Were we teaching to different standards, and this was testing some other standards? So it would be good to have two different standardized tests to be able to look at and see if the scores are matching in both, that they're both low. The standard deviation would also be helpful to know, so we could judge how varied the scores are. That way we'd know whether it's really just kind of a specific set of students or whether it's all of the students at large, and just how different that the scores are can tell us that. And so we also need to know about professional discussions and what's happening within the schools with professional discussions about reading. Are they open and honest? Are they effective? If not, why? What is kind of going on within the climate of the teachers to help or not help the professional discussion about reading and other instruction? And so the problem for Truman Elementary is that, of course, their performance levels in reading are very low, and they're not improving. They haven't been improving for the past couple of years. And so additionally, the community perception is that reading is not being taught very well, or it's not being taught at all. So we really need to do something to fix that perception and also the students' reading performance levels. So my plan of action within the school would be to first collect data on teacher perception. What do the teachers think about their reading program and their reading instruction? And then we also need to revisit the mission and vision. I think before any types of changes happen, we need to really look at our mission and vision statements and make sure that everybody is on the same page and everybody understands why we're making these changes or why we're looking to make changes to improve. So I would provide teachers, after we look at the mission and vision and make sure that we're all on the same page, I'd like to provide the teachers with easy to read data to analyze before the PLC team meetings. That way they can see down on paper what it is that our students know, what they don't know, which students know what, and which ones need extra help. So through these conversations, we would definitely use protocols to discuss the data and the solutions to questions that are asked while analyzing the data. I think when you use different protocols for conversation, it helps everybody participate, but it also helps everybody just kind of stay focused and everybody take ownership in the discussion and what they're talking about. And it also helps keep the discussions very professional, because it's not about pointing fingers that you're doing this in your classroom, but you should be doing this. It's not about that. It's about, everybody being on the same board with the mission and everybody working and striving to help these students improve. And I'd also like to create a continuous improvement plan, which would include classroom-focused improvement process and the steps of that. And so that way we could hopefully see improvement year after year after year, and it would just be continuous. And we would always relook at the data and revisit it and make sure that we are making improvements as we go. And we would continually focus on students' needs and professional improvement, but in a positive way. I think that's always really important, to always stay positive, that even though we do have areas to improve, that's okay. That's just the next thing that we need to strive for, the next thing that we need to work for. As long as we are continuing to improve, then we're not stuck in a rut, and we don't want to be stuck in a rut. I would also need a proposed plan of action for the PTO meeting. I think it'd be really important to go in as organized as possible and with different protocols to also help keep those meetings running smoothly and effectively. So at that meeting, I think it'd be very important to recognize their concern, the parents' concern, to listen to what those concerns are, and to not get defensive and not get, into heated conversations or anything like that. Just to remain professional, recognize their concerns, listen, and also respond to what their concerns are. And the data shows that, yes, we really need to improve reading. And so I think having a plan to how to do that would kind of help relieve some of those concerns and help parents know that they are going to be a part of the process of improvement as we go. So we'd explain the knowledge that we gain from the data analysis, and then also describe the steps that the school is taking to improve student reading. So not only the professional development, but also that we have a continuous improvement plan. And I think going in, being very organized with that would help relieve a lot of the parents' concern. And then I think it would be really important to set a date to revisit that data and the progress that we're making, and just let the parents know that this is not an issue that's just going to be dropped and we're not going to talk about it anymore. It's going to be something that will always be on the table, that we'll always be working towards. So some of the strategies that I would use is, as mentioned, definitely the protocols for communication with teachers and parents. I think that those protocols are they're crucial. They're crucial for everybody to get their voices heard and everybody to be part of the conversation. I would use data to drive those conversations and future improvements. I think that part is really important, just to make sure it gives everybody the why, it gives them the purpose. So here's what the data is saying. Here's how we're going to use that to fix this. Or here's the question that now comes up from looking at this data. So how can we answer that question? Or what other pieces of the puzzle do we need in order to answer that question? And so I'd also ensure at all of the PLC meetings that we are analyzing data, that we have data there that's easy to read for the teachers, that's there to answer their questions, and that we are continually working to improve that plan and always keeping it as a focus. And I think keeping that as a focus and making sure that the PLC meetings have a purpose and a drive, I think will be very positive within the building the school culture into a culture of learning. So what's best for students? Definitely teachers working together is what's best for students. Students see what the adults in their environment are doing, and they are true models for those students. So I think as teachers model that continuous learning and working together and doing maybe some peer observations and learning from one another, I think is really important for the students to see. And they can see that it's okay that you have areas to improve on. What's not okay is to just kind of brush those under the rug. It's to always keep working on them. So I also think it's the grant proposal, and working on that is great for students. That helps alleviate some of the financial need of the community, and you can get some pretty high quality instructional materials with some of that grant money. Listening to other professionals on solutions, I think, is really good for students. Reinventing the wheel is never a good idea. Well, sometimes it's a good idea, but listening to other professionals and working with their research is really important and really good for students. And of course, improving their reading levels. Oh my goodness. So much research has shown how important it is for students to read at grade level to be successful later on in life. So definitely improving those reading levels by working together as adults and doing the professional development needed and improving instruction is definitely what is best for students. So while going through this case study, some of the things that I was thinking about is which students are performing well and which ones and which need improvement. So I would like to see a little bit more data on the students and a little bit more individualized into which students need that extra focus with reading. So the standard deviation scores would be really good to know. What type of professional development has occurred for reading. And I was also kind of thinking about what the school climate was professionally. Do teachers work really well together? Or are they just kind of individualized within their own classroom? And so highly economically disadvantaged. Oh, so the district, it seems pretty economically disadvantaged, but there are some other districts that have better reading scores that have also high economically disadvantaged students. So that I didn't think was quite as much as of a reason for the low scores, but it definitely could have been for some of the students. Does the principal or the curriculum director write the grant? So I'm not quite sure whose job within this this district that is, because there's a lot of different grants out there and a lot of different resources out there for teaching reading. So I was just kind of thinking of who would kind of take that on. I think it would be great for maybe a team to put together the grants, and it would give you a higher chance of getting the grant. So I was definitely worried for the students. Not being on reading level it's a really big deal, and so, but I really think that with the right leadership, a huge impact could be made on improving the reading for these students. And so I'm very optimistic that this elementary school could turn things around, and just the working together with adults, I think, is really huge. You can make a huge impact in a school, and there's really nothing holding you back as long as you're working together towards the same goal. So I was feeling pretty confident in the materials, with the materials to organize the process and the plan. It was really good to read through the previous modules to kind of have an idea of how to organize the improvement. So I am a little nervous when looking at data that I don't want to miss any knowledge from it. So I think it's just going to take practice and lots of different sources of data looking at over time to not miss some of the things that you could. I definitely value technology when working with data. That's huge. Being able to just move something from this sheet to another sheet and being able to compare the two, that's pretty awesome. Some expertise within the staff, I definitely value that as well. Teachers can teach teachers all the time. Everybody has different strengths and different weaknesses. And I think sometimes we focus a little bit too much on our weaknesses and we forget about all of our strengths that we could really use throughout the district. The parents' willingness to get involved, that's definitely something to value, and also opportunities for financial help. Some of the things that I believe that were unresolved, so the school climate and culture, do the teachers work well together? Do the students understand the importance of learning? The curriculum revision, when was that? If they're still using, kind of this old reading instruction, then when was the last time that it was revised? Are there in-district resources that can help? Do teachers receive data from different sources? And how is it presented? Is it something that teachers could read through? And is there time for teachers to ask questions using the data? Is it a focus? So I use the data presented to respond and communicate to the larger community. So first, I was prepared with the data for the parent meeting, and I listened to the concerns of the parents, and I introduced the plan of improvement. So that part is really important to kind of give the base and the background for what we're doing. Then I requested a reading supervisor to observe my staff and collect additional information. That's really important to bring in professionals whenever you can. Next, I worked with the grant opportunity, and then finally I made the plan to continuously revisit the topic, and so that way the teacher team would be informed and everybody would know what's going on. Let's see, so how did I use my knowledge of policies, laws, and regulations to govern the school to influence and bring about positive change in teaching and learning that impact all students? So first of all, I kept student identity safe when presenting the data results. It's really very important not to single out one student or be able to tell which student is which. So that would be the first thing, to make sure that students' identities are safe. By developing teachers professionally on analyzing data and in reading instruction, we are impacting all students positively because we are working on that plan of improvement. And then using the classroom-focused improvement process steps as a school will positively impact all of the students' reading levels by making the improvement continuous and always relooking at the data to ensure that the evidence is there that we are improving. And then how did I establish an ongoing dialogue with decision makers outside the school? So I took the opportunity to apply for grants, and I introduced that opportunity to parents. And I utilized the reading supervisor to observe teachers and make recommendations, and I used the standardized test results to drive decisions and communication with members of the learning community. So just making sure that everybody is communicated with and getting out the correct information so that way they know what's going on within the school. And there is the end of my case study. Thank you for listening.